Good morning, everybody. It is me, Shaniqua Cannon of the Right Diva Productions and Shaniqua CTV. I am here with LeaAnn Fuller of Fuller Life, and she is a women empowerment coach and a Fuller Life coach. So for this Ready to Rock Summit, she has brought to us one of the stories of her life to show you how you can overcome a tragedy similar to hers in your own life. So let's give LeaAnn the floor. Hey, LeaAnn.
Hey, how are you? And how are you, ladies? Thank you so much for having me, Shaniqua. I'm so glad to be here and be on this Ready to Rock platform. I
Thank you
love
for joining us. There's a
Oh,
movement in the air, an absolute
yes,
shift in the air where
yes,
people are having to reclaim their life, to take back their lives from their tragedy. So
yes.
I know you got a power pack for us, so let's go ahead and hear it.
And it is about time we all say enough is enough and we
Yes.
take our lives back. And I'm so excited to have this platform and everything to share it on. So, as Shaniqua said, I am LeaAnn Fuller with Fuller Life LLC. And I empower women to just get out of their own way and just find their greatness. We all have greatness within us, and we just get stuck in
Mm-hmm.
our suffering and stuck in our tragedies and just stuck where we're at. And I can totally relate. The way I put it is I basically spent years just kind of rolling around on rock bottom. It truly was. I started young. I was abused as a young girl, and it just kind of went from there. You know, when you come from being abused, and it really takes a toll on your self-confidence, and it really hurts, and it's just a downward spiral from there, and it leads to a lot of things that it led to for me: promiscuity, uh, different kinds of addictions. I was very fortunate that, however, I did have that. I also did have a very good relationship with my parents and the rest of my family. So I was very fortunate I didn't get into the addictions in that. But I ended up I lost my dad when I was just before we buried him literally the day before my 15th birthday, which was another huge hit for me. He was an amazing man. Everybody loved him. He was our rock in our family, and he was the one that was always there to support us because my mom, God love her, the best woman you'll ever meet, but she was always working. And so that was another huge hit. And I basically lost, to be honest with you, looking back now, I can't remember a thing from that day to the day I found out I was pregnant a year later. So I was pregnant at 16 years old. And again, you know, you come from that abuse at a very young age, your innocence is stolen from you, and, you know, and it just leads you down that trail. And, you know, I ended up pregnant at 16 years old. I wouldn't recommend it, but it was a huge wake-up call for me. And it really kind of hit home that, like, where am I going? You know, I have this other person to worry about now. And for that, I'm actually thankful for, because I was not headed down a very good path. I have no clue what would have happened to me if I hadn't ended up pregnant, because I was headed down that road of promiscuity and even addiction. I was surrounded by it. I was very fortunate that I was taught to not do it, but you can only fight that so much before you give in. And so again, that really was one thing that did help. As much as having a baby as a baby can help, I guess. But with that baby also came a relationship that was very, very toxic. As a young mom and having been through what I'd been through, I wanted my perfect family. You know, you want that in life. And so you put up with a whole lot to get that. And in the process, you lose yourself. You lose who you are and what you want. And I was isolated from my whole family. I wasn't necessarily physically abused. That was his whole thing whenever I'd get mad at him. Is, you act like I beat you. Well, you might as well beat me. Really. Because emotional abuse and mental abuse and verbal abuse is just as bad as the other. And finally, I woke up to that. I think the day that he threw a remote at, I don't know if he threw it at me or was throwing it at the wall or what, and it bounced off from like our washer and hit one of my kids in the head. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? What am I subjecting my children to? At this time, we had 3 girls. They were young. What am I doing? And I was smart enough to say, all right, enough is enough. I made a decision. I remember talking to my sister-in-law and saying, I'm going to be such a bitch within a year. He's going to be happy to see I'm gone. He's going to be happy for me to gone because I'd left before. And then you get the stalking and the constant phone calls and showing up. And it's hard. It's so hard when you want to get out of a relationship like that and you don't think you can. And I did. I left quite a few times and ended up coming back because he's so nice and he's changed and blah, 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 which is good for a few months. But I finally said, enough is enough. I've had it. And I decided then to put my plan in place. And so I would say, and it was working because there were nights he wouldn't come home, or I'd say days he wouldn't come home. So it was kind of working. And finally I said, all right, if he don't come home the next day, I'm going to pack my kids up. It was around shortly after New Year's, pack my kids up and go, and didn't show up. So I packed my kids up, walked them down. We had a very steep, very curvy driveway up in the middle of the woods. How convenient, right? And walked them through a foot of snow with what we could carry on our backs and went to my mom's house. He called me about 3 days later and said, when you coming home? Like, when am I coming home? I haven't been home in 3 days. We've been gone for 3 days. And it took about 5 minutes for him to make the 10 to 15 minute drive to my mom's house, but whatever, that's neither here nor there. And so I kept going through these moments, but all of these moments in these tragedies and traumas in life, it's all a decision. We all have to make a decision that enough is enough so we can move on. And I was making these decisions. However, it just kept getting harder. And I'm like, what is going on? Eventually things have got to turn around. And so here I find myself nearly homeless. Fortunately, I had my mom's house to go to. I'm sleeping on the couch. My 3 girls are sharing an air mattress on the floor. You have 3 women, my mom, my sister, and myself, and actually 2 of my sisters at one point. So you had 4 of us and 12 kids living in this house before I finally decided that I needed my own place. And it was just, like I said, it was like I was rolling around on rock bottom. It was just horrible. It was a horrible feeling that you're going through this, and this is what your children are seeing. This is how I felt I was raising my children, to live through this and deal with this. And so it was a constant thing and a constant struggle and a constant battle. Finally, I had some support with me that helped me get an apartment, but that's when it didn't get better. I mean, there were nights that I didn't even know what I was going to feed my children for dinner. We literally didn't have food in our house. I recall a time that my mom was very ill and she called me up to take her to the grocery store. I was so angry because she had one sister that lived with her. I had another sister that lived around the corner, and here she's calling me, who's 10 minutes away. Not like it's that far, to take her to the grocery store. Little did I know that my girls had told her we didn't have any food in the house. And the trip to the grocery store was really for her to buy me groceries. And I just literally breaking down in tears in the middle of the grocery store. But yeah, it was just a constant battle. And that's why I say kind of rolled around on rock bottom for years. And it wasn't until I had a good job, and which I was very fortunate for, and I had really good support, but I was going to work. I was late every day. It's a single mom. It's a constant battle. You're fighting with the kids. I was working 2, sometimes 3 jobs, plus trying to run my own business. So I was constantly busy. I had to get my oldest daughter her babysitting license at 11 so she could watch her younger sisters, so that I could work more to help pay for the day-to-day babysitter. And it was a struggle. And finally one day I had my mentor and my boss finally said to me, he said, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" And I swear my jaw must have hit the ground, because I didn't even, in my mind, 5 years from now wasn't even a thought. I didn't even know what I was going to feed my children for dinner. How on earth could I possibly imagine my life 5 years from now, let alone imagine it being anything better or anything different? And what that one question did for me is it just clicked. And in an instant, I had this huge shift, like, oh my God, there is more in life than the right now. There is more than where I'm at. It's more than this struggle. It's more than this suffering that I've been putting myself through. Basically, when he asked me that, like I said, my jaw must have just hit the floor. It was such an empowering moment. And I don't know if he meant it to be an empowering moment, but it truly was, because having spent so many years in this little pity party of mine, or whatever you want to call it, rock bottom, tragedy, pity party, whatever you want to call it, it just showed me in that one question, in that one instant, like, oh my God, there is a future. There may actually be light at the end of the tunnel. And it also almost showed me that I have a choice. And I can decide where I want to be 5 years from now. I don't have to know how I'm going to get there, but all I need to know is that that's where I need to be. That's where I want to be. It doesn't have to be the same old. It's been my whole life. It can be whatever I decide to make it. And I decided that my children shouldn't be raised like this. I don't want my children to be raised like this. I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to live with the day-to-day struggle. I don't want to live working my butt off my whole life for nothing. So that really, I mean, who knew you could get that with one simple question? Who knew that could possibly happen? So, I mean, that really was the change of it. And having, like I said, who knew that one simple question can change your whole life? But it really, really did. And it really made me look at the big picture. It made me see that there is more to life than where I am right now. And there's more to life than being stuck where I am right now and continuing on for the rest of my life. I deserve more, and my children deserve more. And that's really where I decided to look deep within me and figure out, what is it that I truly want? I knew what I didn't want, but I needed to take what I didn't want and turn it into what I did want. So, I mean, I kind of started with, I know I don't want to live like this the rest of my life. So how do I want to live? Where do I want to go from here? And it just opens doors. When you can look and you can have that shift in your mindset and just look at the bigger picture and look at where you want to go. And something I really struggled with is there's no way. I can never do that. That's not for me. You see what everyone else is doing and you see everybody doing well, and you look up to all these women who just seem like they have it all together, and you're thinking, I can't do that. That's not me. I'm not meant for that. And it's just a matter of decision. Yes, I am. And I made that decision. And I started looking at the big picture. I started looking at, where do I want to be 5 years from now? And I didn't really know exactly, but I knew I had a general idea of where I wanted to go. I knew that I wanted to be in a place where I can support my children, not have to be depending on others, and have my own business. And I wanted to help people. I've always been one to help people, and I wanted to be able to do that. And I had no clue how I was going to get there. But that's when I realized it's not always about the how. Sometimes you just have to put it out there in the universe. This is what I want, and let the universe do some work for you. You have to do the work, and I realized I had to do the work myself. But when you put it out there where you want to go, and you write it down and you put it out to the universe, subconsciously we have this thing in us where all these big different things are scary. But when you put this out there, it starts to tell your subconscious that you want more and you deserve more. And subconsciously, these things start happening kind of inside, and you get to move forward. And not only subconsciously will you start moving in the right direction, you will hit road bumps because our subconscious is so used to the status quo and used to the same old, same old. So whenever you look around and things look like they're going so great, and then something horrible happens, I'm a firm believer that that's your subconscious saying, "Wow, what is going on? Stop. This is scary. This is different." But we have to be strong enough to keep moving forward. And that's what I learned is you have to be strong enough to keep moving forward and moving ahead. And your subconscious you're just changing the dynamic inside you. And you just have to keep going because we all are going to hit bumps in the road, but it's all part of the process. And again, just keep moving. You keep taking action. And I actually have my 5A steps that I go over. And everything I've ever done and everything, if you think about it, that we ever do when we're overcoming our obstacles or overcoming where we've been to get past that, there's 5 A's. The first one is you have to acknowledge what is going on. You have to acknowledge the tragedy in your past. You have to acknowledge what it is that is keeping you stuck. Because if you can't acknowledge it, you're never going to be able to move past it. I had to acknowledge when I was asked that question, what was really going on? What was I afraid of? And why was I stuck there? I had to acknowledge all the crap that had happened in my past. I had to acknowledge the abuse in my past as a child because I'd blocked it out for so long. And that's really where it all began. You know, I had to acknowledge the fact that, yes, I was a young mom, but I still graduated high school with honors. I still went on to college. Yes, I was stuck in this toxic relationship, but it worked out okay. I got away from that. You have to acknowledge that, and then you have to accept it, which is a lot of what I'm talking. You have to accept, yes, this happened, but that isn't who I am. It doesn't have to be who I am. So you have to accept it for what it was, what it is, what it was, and what it's done for you. And you have to appreciate it. So I had to appreciate the fact that everything that has happened to me has led me to where I am. It has led me to tremendous breakthrough. It has led me to the point where I can take this rock bottom and use that as my launch pad to greatness. So I had to appreciate that. I'd appreciate every decision that I've made in my life led me to where I was. Having my daughter at the age of 16 saved me from a life that could have been way worse. It could have been a life of addiction and just deep down the dark path that who knows if I ever would have overcame. So I had to appreciate that. I had to be grateful. It made me work harder. Everything that has ever happened to me has made me work hard. And again, it's led me to where I am. So you have to appreciate that. And I know it's hard to appreciate some of the horrible things that can happen to us in life, but we just have to do it. Because if you can't appreciate where you've been, you'll never be able to appreciate where you're meant to go. So the next A is you have to allow yourself to forgive. Again, this is hard. How do you forgive somebody that stole your innocence? How do you forgive somebody that has taken so much away from you? But you have to. You have to forgive. Hanging on to bitterness and hate and spite only hurts you. It will not affect anybody that you're holding this bitterness against. They don't give a crap. So you holding on to all of that pain is only hurting you, and it's only holding you back. So you really, really need to sit down and forgive. Not for them, but for you. And one of the huge things that I love to do, and I love to work with people in one of my programs I have, one of these steps is writing a letter to that person that hurt you. Write them a letter. You don't ever have to mail it. Write them a letter, let it all out, and be done with it. You write them a letter, you tell them you forgive them. You can tell them you don't forgive them for them. You forgive them for you, because it's a step that you need to take. You need to have that forgiveness so you can let it go and you can move on. I love to you do the letters up. You have a bonfire some night. You throw the letter in the bonfire and you just let all that pain and hate and bitterness just float away with the embers of the fire in your letter. And that's it. It's done. You have to just forgive them and allow yourself to forgive them so you can move on. Because as long as you're holding on to all of that bitterness and that pain and that anger, you will never be able to get past it. No matter how hard you try, and you're just going to be stuck. And the next thing is taking action. The fifth A, and probably one of the most important A's, is to take action. I don't care what you want, where you want to go, you have to keep moving. And it doesn't matter if it's baby steps, just keep moving, keep taking action. Every day, wake up in the morning. What do I need to do to get where I want to go? Even if it's just talking to one person that you wouldn't normally talk to. And there's so many little things you can do. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. It doesn't have to be some huge action that's scary. Scary's not all bad. You know, your life begins outside of your comfort zone. So take action and start getting there. Because if you're stuck where you're at, you're never going to go any further. So really, those are the 5 things that I've learned throughout all of my ups and downs and triumphs and tragedies. Those are the 5 things that really seem so simple, but are difficult, but really will get you through and get you to where you want to go, no matter where it is. So, and now, you know, here I am today. I am empowering women internationally. I really had a rough couple of months since my ex-mother-in-law passed away, who was just a huge support for me and my girls. And so it's been a rough couple months, but it's like starting back from the beginning. And once I started to come out of that funk and you just kind of overcome it, and it's like, since then, I've booked speaking conferences in Vegas and California. I have 2 telesummits that I'm a part. I mean, this is all, and it's just all a part of everything I've been doing all the years, and it's all a part of the action and all the action I've taken before then, all the action I've taken since then, just to overcome it.
That is quite a testimony, quite a message for our audience. You spoke to being abused as a child, but we don't exactly know what type of abuse are you talking about, because you said that was a catalyst for so much more of your life. So what are we talking about?
So I don't really speak out openly about the exact. I was molested when I was a young girl.
Okay.
So yeah.
And like so many others, it does color like the rest of your life.
It does.
In ways that you don't even realize.
Yeah.
Like, so what do you think was some of the ways that it touched on your life? Because you said you had your parents, and so often people don't. So
yes.
Can you speak on that, like how it affected you?
So really it did. And a lot of it I never realized because, like I said, I shut it out.
Mm-hmm.
I acted like it didn't happen. I shut it out. But what that does to someone's self-confidence is it basically, number one, it steals your innocence.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're getting into some of these other situations, you don't feel highly enough about yourself to say, no, I don't deserve this, because you've already been a part of this. You almost feel like this is what you deserve. This is normal to be treated this way, because we don't have the self-confidence and the self-love that we need for ourselves to not accept it and not put up with it and maybe not even realize how unacceptable it is. Mm-hmm. Because when you have somebody who is a part of your family that you're supposed to be able to trust doing this to you, it's going to be okay for others to do it to you.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yes. I shared the story. Yeah. So yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it really does make a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say this in my own part of the summit too, but it really does. It takes away your ability to say no to things.
Yes, it does.
That as who you are today, looking on who you are today, you would have never gotten into. Like my next relationship was like terrible. Like that would have been a big fat no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I like jumped out. I almost look at it like jumping out of the frying pan and into the fire.
Mm-hmm.
I did that. I got into this other relationship to kind of escape abuse. And and I kind of almost feel like I put up with it longer than I would have, because I wanted to protect my little sister and that, because I myself felt that would have been the next target. But and that was the thing. He came along and he seemed great for a while, and it's like, oh, here's my escape, So you jump out of the frying pan into the fire, not realizing that it's not going to be any better, but you just want that escape.
Right.
You just need that escape. You need to get away from it. So yeah, that's definitely true.
Now, another thing we share is that we both got pregnant at 16. So,
yes.
Unfortunately, mine was from a rape, but it probably would have happened without that situation,
Right.
So how did you keep fighting to graduate from high school, to go on and graduate from college? Because you spoke of having this marriage and having 3 kids. So I know that compounds upon what makes it tough. So how did you do it? How did you push forward and get to the other side of that?
So I was very fortunate. And as you said, not everybody is. I really did have, my mom was a huge support, but she worked all the time. I remember when I told her I was pregnant, she worked 2 full-time jobs. So she worked 80 hours plus a week. And I remember when I told her, I was so scared to tell her, but she was literally walking out the door to her night job. at 11 o'clock at night. And that's when I told her, because I felt I was safe to tell her at that point because she'd be going to work. But I was very lucky that I had it was a huge support. I had huge support from my mom. I had, fortunately, my boyfriend's mom didn't work at the time, so I had her to fall back on for daycare, and I realized not everybody has that support, and that is the one thing I wish everybody did have. And I couldn't have done it without that support. I mean, going to school, working, in all honesty, my boyfriend's mom really almost raised my daughter for the first year of her life. I mean, I would go to school, I would go to work, and I would go home, go to their house, put her to bed, and then I would either stay there to get up and do it all over again, or I'd go home and do it all over again. But it's just a matter of, I think, being open to the support, because not everybody has such a close support system that I had. But there is support out there. And I think if you're in that position, all you have to do is ask for it. There are churches, there are programs that can offer you the help and the support you need, but you have to be humble enough to ask for it. You have to realize you can't necessarily do it on your own. I do think that I felt strong enough about it, I would have figured it out regardless. My college, my 2-year degree probably took me 5 years to get.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably never would have been able to go back and get it if I didn't have someone in my job. My boss felt it was important enough that I went back to get my degree, that he helped me do that. So it's all in, again, that's not your normal support, but it's out there. You just have to be open for the opportunities that are before you. And it may not be as clean cut or as well laid out, but it's out there. Like I said, there's churches, there's school programs, there's county programs there. If you feel strong enough about something and you are open enough to help and support, you will find it.
That is like a really big deal. What you just said was be open to the support. Like so many of us aren't, I think in America, we're conditioned to keep saying we're fine. Everything's okay.
Yes.
I mean, when people ask, how are you? They keep walking. They're not even waiting for your answer.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't want to hear. Yeah. Yep. It's absolutely quite a bit of a thing. I thought it was really interesting when you said it was a remote control that he threw, right?
Yeah.
And it bounced and it hit your kid. And I just kept thinking, like, what a metaphor, right? Because he has control of your life, and he threw it and pretty much put it back in your hands. Once it, oh, that was amazing.
I never thought of it that way. Holy smokes.
It's serious. He gave up his control.
He did.
Yeah. That was fantastic. So your mom took you to buy groceries. Why didn't you tell her you didn't have food?
Ego. Again, I didn't want people to know I was struggling. And that's where it's so important to be open for help. You need to ask for help.
Yes.
We're also trained to not ask for help. There's
to not seek this charity
wrong. Right? Yeah, there's nothing wrong for asking for help when you need it.
Especially when it's not just you.
Exactly. And I just didn't want. I was okay. I was sticking to my guns, and I was always told, when I left, I was told whenever I went for support or whatever, you wanted this, you got it. You know what I mean? So that's how I looked at it. It was my problem. And I mean, granted, my mom was not really in a position she was sick, she wasn't working, she was on disability, so she really wasn't in a position to help me. So the last thing I wanted to do is go to my mom, who didn't have any money, and ask her for help. But that's exactly it. It's just, I didn't ask for help because it was an ego thing. I'm fine.
And it's really interesting. Someone I spoke to yesterday for this summit, she said she was told that when you do not accept people's help,
Mm-hmm.
you block their blessings. You block
Mm-hmm.
what was their thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
it's really interesting how you pointed out your mom, who was the last person you would have even thought to go to,
Right.
because you thought
Right.
she had so little,
Right.
was the one who turned around and
Yeah.
blessed you guys with nourishment and further support.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really interesting. Now, when you got to that thing with your boss, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I will tell you, I'm pretty sure in the audience, when you start talking about it, there's like this huge light bulb moment, right?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
wait,
Oh
I don't
God,
have to
yes.
think about right now,
Yes.
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 But at the same time, I think there's some pushback against thinking about a future when right now is what I have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
How do you speak to that? If because you can understand why you
Yes.
needed to focus on right now.
Yes. Yes.
So what would you say to someone in the audience who will say, but my bills are due today? My kids need to eat today. Why do I need to worry about 5 years?
Yeah, and that's exactly where I was.
Mm-hmm.
I literally, I did not know what I was going to feed my children for dinner. So how on earth could I think about 5 years from now? Totally get it. But I now realize that if you don't know where you want to go, you will never get there. If you are stuck in the today and where you are right now, that is exactly where you will be 5 years from now. So that and I get it. I mean, I was there and I never would have even imagined. But give yourself permission to right now just take 5 minutes. There's nothing wrong. And in fact, you should be taking at least 5 minutes to yourself every day, if not more. You are entitled and you can take the time for yourself, and you should take the time for yourself. So you take that time and you say you give yourself permission to look at what you really want in life and where you really want to go. Because if you don't know, you'll never get there. If you're stuck focusing on right now and where you are right now and in the pain and in the struggling, that's where you will be in 5 years from now. And I'll guarantee it, because that's where I was. And that's why I rolled around on rock bottom for so freaking long, because all I could think about is the crap that I was in the middle of right now.
That is so powerful. That is absolutely so powerful. And I love the way that you put it is the rolling around on rock bottom. Like,
yeah.
I mean, if you even think about, rocks being on the bottom, like that's painful.
Yeah.
It's absolutely painful, to continue stepping on that or rolling in it. And that's a great visual. I really appreciate that one as well. And so you do speak to that there is more in life than just right now. I love that you just put it now. Even for me, like that was a light bulb where you said, if you're stuck on focusing on right now, that's exactly where you'll be in 5 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, because when you look at when you were in those dark times, they stretched.
Yeah, they did.
That was a very long night,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's the thing, you get what you're focused on in life. So if that's what you're focusing on, that's what you're going to get.
Right.
I don't care. You can call it mindset. You can call it the universe. You can call it whatever you want to call it. But whatever you're focusing on and wherever you're placing your energy, that is what you're going to continue to get. So that's why if you start focusing your energy and your mind on what you want and getting over what you have, maybe being grateful for what you have right now so that you can get to where you want to be. I mean, that may just be it. You just need to decide. And I'm sorry, no matter where you are in life, it's a decision. You can decide. I've always said that we're given our challenges and our tragedies for a reason, to learn and to grow from them. We are meant to struggle. We are not meant to suffer. So we are given our struggles so that we can get past them. we learn from them, we grow from them, we move on from them and become a better person. Or we make a decision to sit and suffer in those struggles.
Girl, you are full of fire. Oh, wow. Oh man, we're meant to struggle. And I often say, I don't know what you believe, but one of the things that I say is that God doesn't like you to be comfortable. Because comfort, you don't grow in comfortable, right?
Exactly.
I love how you flip that on its head. We're meant to struggle, but we're not meant to suffer.
Yes.
You got to grow from it and learn from it. That is awesome. And and you're saying giving yourself permission, and I'm going, this is so funny because that's the name of the book where this summit was born. I wrote the book called Giving Yourself Permission with the subtitle. And I talk about rock. That's where it comes from. So reclaiming your life, owning your story, connecting to something outside of yourself, and knocking down the negativity. And then when you give us your 5 A's, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
You got to take your life, right? Acknowledge what's keeping you stuck, reclaim your life, and accept that it happened. So own that story. But again, that's not who you are.
Exactly.
So these are fantastic. I mean, acknowledge, accept, appreciate, allow, and then get into action. And we're not here to empower. We're here to get you moving.
Yes.
That's why it's called a movement.
Yes,
this is not just
absolutely.
Yes, this was great. No, what are you going to do now, right?
Yes.
So tell me, what do you do as part of your Fuller Life company? How will people reach you? What can they expect when they talk to you? And then do you have anything to offer, a freemium, a group, or what have you?
So as Fuller Life, basically, I said it earlier, I empower women to just get out of their own way and find their greatness. And I do that through one-on-one coaching, which is one of my favorite things to do, because through coaching and working with women, I help them find their way to where they want to go, not other people's way. It's their way. What's standing in your way and how are we going to get over it so you can get what you actually want? So I do have that. I do have a freebie on my website. It's the 10 steps to living a happier, fuller life, which please go to my website. It's lovingyourfullerlife.com, and you'll have a pop-up there with the freebie for that. And then I also have a 30-day Fuller Life challenge that I do. And in those 30 days, we go through a lot of the things that we've talked about, like where are you now? Where do you see yourself? 20 great things about you, because if you don't know how great you are, no one else is going to know how great you are. And it's really 30 days. And I say it's a 30-day challenge, but it's more like a lifelong journey. And these are just the basic steps that you can take. You can do it in 30 days. You can do it in 6 months, whatever you are comfortable with. But with that, you get my Fuller Life workbook, and you have a Facebook group for support for other people who have been through the challenge or are currently going through the challenge right now. And also you have direct access to me through the group, and also through my through Facebook, Fuller Life LLC on Facebook. I have my page there. You can connect there. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram. I believe Fuller Life there as well. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways to connect, and I do offer free introductory coaching calls for anyone who may be interested. They're not really sure where they want to go, and they want to discover that a little bit.
That's awesome. I really appreciate your time. This was a powerful video here that I'm sure people are going to take and learn from and get into action. If they implement those 5 A's, they will find themselves unrolling. Find themselves standing up and beginning to
They'll find themselves launching off from rock bottom.
I love that phrase alone. Okay, so thank you again for joining us, and thank you guys. You have to visit her website, get those freebies, because the only thing that it's going to cost you is your time and being real with yourself.
Yes.
Okay, so LeaAnn, any last thing you want to say to our audience? Anything you want them to walk away with?
The biggest thing you have to do right now is just to make a decision for you. Make a decision. You want change. You're going to change. Wherever you're at right now, make that decision that you are meant for more, and give yourself permission to get it. Make the decision and give yourself permission, and just start doing it.
That's awesome. All right, guys. So I'll see you tomorrow for the next speaker. Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much.